Epic are paying everyone's bills. They are throwing their weight around with seeming disregard for community opinion. We've been told it's all for a good cause, but their actions speak louder than their words, and Epic are this year's big sponsor for the PC Gaming E3 showcase. And based on the reactions, Epic have proven one thing: they'd rather be feared than loved. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another report. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Epic Games' latest power play. They are the presenting sponsor for PC Gamer's aptly named PC Gaming Show at E3. This is the perfect news to elicit exasperation for sure, one that threatens the reputation that the show has had for years before. While generally PC Gamer's earnest effort to bring the PC gaming community to E3 on a proper stage has been met with fairly mixed reactions, it's no doubt been a decent stage for games that are either PC focused or exclusive, like only being on the PC platform. Epic might have poisoned that though, with PC Gamer actually having to preemptively run defense. In the very article in which they announced this news, they said this, quote, "To be clear, this doesn't mean that all the games presented at the PC Gaming Show are partnered with Epic. Expect more than 20 different developers to show new trailers or make announcements." And really, if you have to put out fires as a part of your exciting announcement, then it raises some questions, and it does kind of let people know that PC Gamer themselves kind of do know what's going on here. Now, them having a large corporate sponsor, that's nothing new, and the entire show itself has been a gigantic advertisement for all of its existence. Conflicts of interest are obvious here, with a press outlet taking money from developers and publishers to show off their games, but when it comes to trade shows, this is largely something that is forgiven. Most people know what happens behind the curtain, they understand how it works, and they understand that it's the only way these things could happen because the shows are pretty darn expensive. Until now, they have been treated as part community, part corporate celebrations and marketing. For another press-related example, take Eurogamer, who host EGS, which is clearly sponsored, but when you go there and you're on the show floor, well, you know that. Now, when it comes to community perception, that just means we have to take these shows with a grain of salt, and I think that even the people making those shows probably do understand that. It's much like how you can't expect a publisher to tell the whole story at their own press conference. You can never really expect the PC Gaming Show hosts to disparage the games shown there. The thing is, though, that there's actually a fairly big difference between the past and now. When the PC Gamer Show was sponsored by AMD, well, even if AMD were suggesting, you show off the AMD things and Lisa Su comes out to talk about AMD stuff, and maybe some NVIDIA optimized features weren't talked about, that's stuff that didn't really matter to consumers that much. AMD were largely secondary to the actual games there, having a minimal impact on them. And then while it's fundamentally different, it was largely the same with Microsoft too, because when Microsoft were involved, their approach was to bridge the gap between console and PC, and pushing consumer-friendly products from their perspective, like Windows 10, DirectX 12, and talking about PC gaming in general. They did bring Killer Instinct to PC through the Windows Store exclusively, and indeed did the same for Fable Legends, but, well, they were first-party games, which people generally understand because Microsoft, developed them with their own studios, and of course they were both endeavors that were kind of met with failure. This time around, though, Epic Games is becoming a bit of a cursed name. Every move that they make is met with scrutiny. Epic having a say in this show is treated so differently by audiences because, in the short term at least, Epic's interests don't seem to be that well aligned with consumers. Now, obviously, AMD, Intel, and Microsoft serve their shareholders as public companies, but recently speaking, they haven't really had massive anti-competitive, anti-consumer moves in the gamer space. Sure, they've all had their own run-ins in the past, but Epic, on the other hand, they're in the news multiple times per week for snatching up exclusives and pitting developers against their fans. They're a lot more involved in the PC games market right now in a more direct way, one that consumers do care about more as compared to previous PC Gaming Show sponsors like, say, AMD. And then moving past the main title sponsors, even the smaller ones, they're usually smaller publishers or developers who are clearly just putting money towards the event happening so that they get a showcase for their game. It's very clear marketing. It's ultimately better for the PC gaming community if Tripwire want to put some money into the show so that they can show off what's next for Killing Floor, or if Anna and Perna want to, help out financially and get some screen time for Outer Wilds. Sure, it's a paid ad spot, but that's the stuff the community actually wants to see. Whereas Epic are reviled Well, because a lot of people will think that their very inclusion will hurt the show itself. Really, every article or forum post that I've looked while this video has been written, they've been pretty scathing. In fact, we already know that Epic do plan to reveal new material for games, including exclusives for the show, so it could actually go quite poorly as far as reception goes. And that brings me on to my next point here, how the fan celebration aspect of these shows work, and why, while fun and exciting, I think they can be quite a problem. So, fan culture is dreadfully powerful as a thing. We all get excited about our games and our tech and all of that stuff. However, in doing so, we end up giving a lot of power to the companies behind our hobbies to do things like run giant, week-long ad campaigns that transform into cultural events designed to excite us for what ultimately is just the next consumer good. I said earlier in this video that there are conflicts of interests just all over the place with shows like this, and honestly, that's putting it lightly. E3, to the outside eye, is kind of wild. I mean, imagine this for a second, okay? A spotlight illuminates an empty stage in a convention center. A room is full of people who call themselves cola fans, or soda lovers, or some sort of other, hobby as identity label, and they're all deathly silent. Then a well-dressed man steps into the light, he holds up a can, covered in what seems to be perfectly placed condensation, and announces Coca-Cola 2 out holiday 2019, and the whole audience erupts, cheering and crying. Kind of insane, right, when you think about it? Yet, it's another consumer good. I think we've gravitated to this fandom-first approach as a whole, and I think it opens up kind of unhealthy behaviors as consumers and as people. That's E3, basically, corporate interests that just so happen to align with consumer interests so that they're uncritically celebrated. Now, celebrating a hobby is absolutely great. I'd never say that's a bad thing, absolutely, but I suppose it's getting too emotionally involved in a fandom that ultimately is a corporate product that kind of results in the blurring of ethical lines when it comes to how we analyze things like the PC Gaming Show or E3 in general. It's kind of unfortunate that fan culture means that we can't have neutral situations where objectivity is truly desired in the industry, as our trade press can't really be objective without being destroyed by, fans on either side of the mark. This has long been the case with games, sadly, but the vitriol surrounding Epic's behavior is a very strong example of it today. I have another situation for you to imagine, though. Imagine if Steam were the presenting sponsor for the PC Gaming Show this year. That is something that would likely be celebrated given the current state of PC gaming, and PC gamers would talk from now until E3 excitedly about how unlikely it is they'd announce a third-party game in any series without thinking twice about the potential negatives of such a powerful force swinging their money around because it suits their needs. I've noticed there are a lot less people talking about Steam's pretty large kind of monopoly, effective in some ways, on elements of PC gaming, and it feels a little bit like we're in a sort of you don't know what you've got till it's gone scenario, with everyone pining for a better past, forgetting why that past is flawed in the first place. There are more than enough concerns, though, founded or otherwise, with Epic Games' involvement really potentially poisoning the reputation of the PC Gaming Show at E3. It's generally been seen as a community-friendly event that's been built up, but PC Gamer as an outlet has amassed something of a reputation as of late. I've seen a lot of comments about how this was obvious, given how PC Gamer basically didn't really make big statements about Epic Games' perceived wrongdoings in their reporting, which, in any other form of press, a conflict of interest like that being noticed by people would be a bit of a death sentence. People are kind of implying here that PC Gamer are covering Epic favorably in order to get a payout, and I think it's actually an astute observation and a possibility we should always take into account when it comes to every side of our industry press. And every side, I really mean that, not just the ones that stand against the current community zeitgeist. I think in general we just need to be a little bit more objective about the industry very broadly so we don't get the wool pulled over eyes by anyone. After all, it's a very narrow segment where our interests overlap, and our being that the investors and the shareholders in the industry want to make as much money as they can from customers at the lowest possible cost. Then, of course, customers want to get the most value at the lowest possible cost from the companies. Now, there is a meeting point between those two groups, the shareholders and the customers, and that can work out quite well. But yeah, and then of course, there are situations where the customer base fall into where the investors can kind of pull things further in their favor, and fandom is sometimes something that really does support that happening, and it ultimately, directionally, over say a 10 to 20 year period, is not great for the customers. Saying that though, the Epic vitriol is more understandable from a consumer perspective, especially because Epic have been absolutely unrelenting. There's of course another exclusive since the Outer Wilds. Take-Two announced that Ancestors: The Humankind Odyssey, a prehistoric survival game from the creative director behind Assassin's Creed, that's going to be an Epic Games Store exclusive for a year. That marks, the Outer Worlds, Borderlands 3, and Ancestors all as being Take-Two published games that are Epic Games Store exclusives. Remember that 4chan leak from a while ago that said that Red Dead Redemption 2 was targeted for a July 9th PC launch and an Epic Game exclusive? Well, that particular leak is almost certainly false because, of course, one of those dates came and passed and nothing happened. But the rest, though, given Take-Two's history, could even come to fruition, and it does look more likely with every move that we see Epic make. Then, in addition, and this is a sort of side element to this story, there's another interesting thing in the news surrounding Epic and just their reputation. So, the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, BAFTA, have announced that Epic Games will be honoured with a special award in June during E3, with Tim Sweeney accepting the award on the company's behalf. Now, that has currently been met with quite a lot of anger because of how Epic are currently seen, but the reasoning from BAFTA is pretty sound. In their almost 30-year history, Epic have done their fair share for the industry in terms of games and technology. BAFTA are specifically interested in celebrating the Unreal Engine, given how it's enabled a lot of creativity from many developers over the years, many who of course have went on to win BAFTAs like say Hellblade, What Remains of Edith Finch, Rocket League and more. Now, the BAFTAs have been making pretty good strides on games recently, ultimately being a pretty high prestige award, at least in the UK. Epic, given the criteria, do deserve that award, much like, say, previous recipients do, like Riot Games, Nolan North, Brenda Romero, Amy Hennig, Notch. All of those names have been hugely influential on the games industry in the UK and worldwide, and yeah, they do deserve recognition for their achievements. And as much as many are, given the current climate, not particularly happy with the BAFTA decision, I think that taking back somebody's successes based on very recent missteps is basically revisionism, and I don't really think that's something we should be super in the habit of doing. I think we should celebrate good when it happens, and then take action against the bad. And, be balanced. So it's very possible, I think it is the case that Epic Games exclusivity, bad. Epic Games' Unreal Engine that has really good licensing terms, very good. So that is our report on Epic Games sponsoring the PC gaming show and just what it means and how it's really kind of going down. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to make a massive difference to the content of the show. The viewership and the general reception will definitely take a hit, but I'm sure the Day 9 and Frankie will do a pretty good job at hosting it, and I hope Tim Sweeney's big sack of cash at least provides us with a decent quality production, if nothing else. Of course, what I want as a consumer is for the show to have more multi-platform games than not, and, well, just that we get darn good video games at the end of the day. So let me know if you're going to be watching the show after hearing this news, or if you are kind of conscientiously objecting from the PC gaming show based on Epic's involvement. What do you think about fan culture and the complacency of people within a hobby whenever things are going their way, but maybe not for the most ethically sound reasons? Super interested to hear what you've got to say, because you know what? I'm pretty sure this video is a bit of a spicy one. So thank you very much for watching this video, and with that, I'll see you next time.